Hey, welcome everybody to Sage Advice, and get your questions coming in to #SageAdvice. I'm Stephen Kelly, I'm the Chief Executive of Sage. We're passionate about entrepreneurs, business owners, successful business leaders around the world. And I'm so excited today to be joined by Melinda Emerson, who's an entrepreneur's rock star. She's out there, social media, 1 million followers, a big voice of entrepreneurship in the world, and also a major author around entrepreneurship. So books like Become Your Own Boss in 12 Months, Big Success, and sets the tone in terms of thought leadership are a few business owners out there. Over 1 million followers, as I said. Now get your questions coming in because it's going to be a live broadcast. I'm going to open it up to your questions in a second. #SageAdvice. This is our time of year for entrepreneurship. We celebrate your success all around the world with Small Business Saturday last weekend in the USA and in the UK this Saturday. And I'm standing here in front of Edinburgh Castle in the great city of Edinburgh, Scotland. That's been there over 800 years, and it's seen thousands of entrepreneurs come through Scotland and build their businesses. And 66% of jobs in this country of Scotland, like all around the world, is created by you guys, small and medium businesses. And we know it's a story of human sacrifice. We know like a fifth of you guys work 70 hours a week. You use your life savings to fund your businesses. You give up your weekends, you give up your vacations. So the theme of the day is time is money. How do you use your time to pursue your dreams and grow your business? And we're gonna open up now to the first question with Melinda. Big question really, Melinda. When you're a startup business, you're following your dreams, as an entrepreneur, where would you suggest they focus their time?
Well, thank you so much for having me, Stephen. This is so awesome that you're doing this to support small businesses worldwide in celebration of Small Business Saturday in the UK. You know, when I think about what startup businesses could do first to maximize their time and their money, the first thing I want to say is stop doing those never-ending to-do lists. I want entrepreneurs to focus on getting 5 things done a day, and I want them to get them done before 11 a.m. And the reason why is because if you do this never-ending to-do list, you're going to feel like you never get anything done. But if you are draconian with your time, if you focus on your top 5 priorities, and if you set them up the day before so that you don't start your day on email working on somebody else's agenda, you start your day working on your own agenda on your top 5. If you do that, you get an early start, you are going to get far more done, and you're going to prioritize your tasks on money generating activities.
Hey, that's a great start, Melinda. And I think you mentioned email there. How do you kind of block out the noise, just, you know, becoming a slave to either email or whatever it is, the admin? How do you get focused on the really important stuff?
Well, for one, you need to only check email 3 times a day. You need to turn off those little bings that, you know, hit every time a new email comes to you. You really need to be focused when you have to get things done. That is your focus. And email can wait 2 hours for you to get back. You know, I know we all live in this microwave society where everybody wants a response right away, but actually getting back to somebody at the end of the day is okay. And you have to tell yourself it's okay, because I believe in business, particularly as a small business owner, you teach people how to treat you, right? So if you respond to emails all times of the day and night, your customers are going to think it's okay to contact you all day and night. So you need to make sure that you focus on your priorities first and that you respond to things in a timely way that doesn't get you off track, because we know once you stop and go to an email, it takes you 20 to 22 minutes to get back into what you were doing when you interrupted yourself with email. So you have to be very careful. Email's a great tool, but you've got to make sure that you focus on your agenda and what you have to get done, because there's a lot of bright, shiny object syndrome out here. There's a lot of stuff that can distract you. So you want to make sure that you focus on your business priorities.
Great, Melinda. And keep your questions coming. #SageAdvice on Twitter. Now we've got the first question. We often hear, it's kind of based on the question you just mentioned there. You know, I need a lot of time to focus on tasks, but I'm worried about isolating myself from the team. How should I manage that?
Well, I think that you need to have a formal way to communicate with your team. I know for my business, every Monday at 4 p.m., I have a 30 to 45-minute meeting and or conference call with my entire team. My team is virtual, so they're all over the country, and there's some that are not even in the US. So I make sure that I set aside time to communicate with my team all at one time. Now, if someone needs more time with me or just discuss a specific issue, I always make myself available for a quick call or Skype call or but I think that it's important for you to have a standard set meeting that you have with your team to communicate, because you certainly don't want to hide in your office and try to come up with all the answers yourself. You do want to involve your team in the solutions, because you never know, it really could be the intern that comes up with the solution for your biggest problem in your business.
Yeah, just talking about teams again, we've got another question on that theme. So how can I monitor my team and how they spend their time without seeming like a control freak?
Well, you know what? There's a lot of great, time tracking software out there. And if you're concerned about the productivity of your team, then you need to make sure that you're having people track their activities. There's tons of software you can use on people's computers to track what they're doing. The other thing too, though, is you could just have it set up to where at the end of the week or at the end of the day, they have to tell you what they did. That's another way to get people to be more accountable. But the other thing too is, how well do you praise the people in your organization that do get things done? Everybody likes to hear their name called. Everybody likes an attaboy or, a gift card, or, because money is always the right size and the right color, right? So a lot of people get motivated by praise, by money, by more responsibility. My suggestion to you is, if you're worried about your team and what they're getting done, figure out what your different individual team members' love languages are and love on them. And then use the accountability measures, either software or them communicating with you daily or weekly, and you will get more out of your team.
That's great, Melinda. And hey, separately, I should mention about Melinda as an entrepreneur's rock star. Go to hashtag 12 days of giveaways. Melinda's running at this festive time of year, leading up to the holiday season, just coming off the back of Thanksgiving, leading up to the end of year holidays. 12 days of giving. And I think Ellen DeGeneres has tried to kind of compete with that hashtag, but you heard it first, that this is Melinda's. So we'll probably tell you a bit about that. But we got another question. Maybe you just want to mention the hashtag 12 days of giveaways.
Yes.
A question saying, as the head of my business, obviously leading the business and starting it as the founder, where should I spend most of my time?
As the head of your company, you should spend your time on making money in your business. You should be your company's chief sales officer. You need to go out and close business and make sure you're following up with your existing customers so that you keep your customers. It's cheaper to keep a customer than it is to go out and get a new one. And as the head of your company, you are the head strategist and the chief sales officer. So you need to be out there closing more business.
That's so true. Actually, in my experience, I started years ago and in the early stage of Oracle when I was growing up. And I remember in the early days, when you walk down the corridor, people used to say, kind of, what do you do? If you're not selling to customers, servicing customers, or building product, we kind of don't know what you're doing here, or you're supporting one of those guys. So it's really focusing on what Melinda said, loving customers, winning customers, and delighting customers, and innovating with your product. And that, if you keep focused on those things in your day, you're probably going to have a great business. Now, another question coming up. What can I do for the fun things that boost the morale of my team?
Well, when you are small and you don't have a lot of resources, there's other things you can do. You can do lunch every day. You can do a lunch every week. One of the things I used to do when my company was really small was I just used to have a dinner for Christmas where I would invite all of my staff to bring a date or their significant other, and we would all go out to dinner as adults and laugh. And I didn't have a big budget for a huge Christmas party or anything like that, but taking 20 people to dinner is expensive. So I would go to a nice restaurant. I would get a private room, and I also would use that opportunity to give each one of my team that day their Christmas bonus. And back in the day, all I could give was $100 Visa gift card to everyone. But you want to show your team that you appreciate them, and it's not all about work. And if you get in a social setting with people and you learn about their kids and you act frankly more interested than interesting, your team will appreciate you for it. And I think that's a great way to, acknowledge your team and all the hard work everyone puts in.
Hey, great, Melinda. I kind of remember when I was in a startup and, there was 6 of us and then 12, and people used to kind of cherish those days when we went to a bar on a Thursday night or we won a big order and we go for dinner. Now, as you scale up, you get 100 people, 200 people. How do you keep that sense of, connection? Because you know what happens? I know what happens is people say, I remember the good old days when I used to see the founder, walk in the office and we were there and went to the bar together, and we kind of lost that. How do you keep that?
Well, it's tough because once you get over 7 people, you've got to get some managers in your business. You do get to the point where you can't have personal touch with people. But I think if you always act approachable, if you always act like people can reach out to you if they have an idea or they see a problem, I think you can keep that closeness and that mom and pop feel. But when you get to 100, 200 employees, you do need to have a big holiday party. You do need to do things to make it fun for people. People like profit sharing. If you're a big enough company where you can do things, make sure that your benefits are good. What we try to do is make sure that we know what, we check salary.com and things like that. And we try to pay 10% above that. So we pay people well. We try to give people great benefits. We try to make it a cool place to work and do interesting things so that people want to be there. You definitely don't want to have an employee that doesn't want to be there, doesn't care about your long-term business goals, and frankly doesn't give a damn enough. And so you want to make sure that you love on them and hopefully they love on you. And if they don't, you got to get rid of them quickly.
That's great advice. And I think the interesting thing is that you got to hire the best people. And we always say A-class people hire A-stars, B-class people. I think this was Donald Rumsfeld who said this, hire Muppets. So you've got to hire rock stars. You've got to get those rock stars in. Now, we've got a great question because I think, the essence of a startup business, it feels like a family. It often is a family. But how do you kind of separate the family bonds and create a business team?
Well, the thing you got to do is, even though you love your employees, and I run a business where I love every single person that works for me, but they all know if they're not cutting it, I will cut them. And I think you just have to have a fine line where you respect people and you want to honor them and be interested in their personal lives. But it is a little bit hard to socialize with your employees on a regular basis and then be the person that has to discipline them. So you do have to put some distance between yourself. You don't want to be hanging out as friends necessarily with your employees, because as you grow and as people, there's times when you're going to outgrow people, and it's hard to outgrow somebody that's also like your best friend. That's a great way to kill a relationship. And I actually have a rule. I don't hire somebody I can't fire. So I don't believe in working with spouses and best friends and stuff like that, because I think that's a recipe for you to destroy a good relationship. So, I'm the wrong person to ask this question to, but I think that I learned this lesson probably that my second job in the business. I used to be a television producer when I first started out in my career. And I remember I bought my first house and I had this big housewarming party, and I invited my news director, and she politely told me that she was not going to come. And I was so devastated and offended, like, well, why wouldn't you come? And she said, you can't socialize with the people that work for you, the people that you supervise. And I now understand what she meant, because now I've been a business owner for 16 years, so I get it. And it is important to keep a healthy distance while still being interested in caring about your employees.
That's great, Melinda. The other thing I think I'd add to that is it's great to give your colleagues continuous feedback about what they're doing great and what they can do better, because we all learn. And I think when you're running at 1,000 miles an hour, you get the job done, but you need to reflect on kind of what do we learn and how do we do this better? How do we build processes that can scale? Because we want to be, 100 people one day or 200 people. We want to have thousands of customers. We want to be, $5 million revenues. And, the only way you build that is build a culture from the start that kind of is continuously improving and very honest and transparent in that. Now, we've got a great question here. So keep your questions coming on #SageAdvice. How do you ensure that you're doing everything you can to create a good company culture, in fact, a great company culture as you grow? And I know, and Melinda knows, culture is everything.
Culture is everything. And I think that the number one thing you can do to destroy your culture is hire somebody that's not a fit. So it really, in order for you to keep your culture intact, you have to make sure that you look for the culture fit and not just the skill set fit when you're interviewing and hiring people to work for you. It is extremely important that, you might have somebody that has a lot of great skills, but they're not nice, or they have a lot of skills, but they're kind of a selfish person and they're not really a team player and they don't look for ways to serve. I love employees that are always trying to add value, that are always coming up with ideas that will get my back on something maybe that I missed. Those are the kind of people that build a culture and add energy to an organization. If you hire a Debbie Downer that's always complaining all the time or always looking at their watch trying to run out the door at 5 o'clock, that's probably not the right person to have in your organization. So you just want to make sure that as you're hiring, that you are really careful. And if you know that hiring people isn't a good thing, like that you're not good at it, and I had to learn this about myself, hire people to help you hire people. Don't do it yourself if it's not something you're good at, but know the right culture fit that you want to coach around so that the people that are screening people for you know that culture is the most important thing to you as you bring people into your organization.
Yeah, it's great, Melinda. And hire those people who are proud people who refuse to fail. And actually going back to the summer, we had Sage Summit in New Orleans and we had Colin Powell there, and it was quite momentous in terms of obviously a great general. And he said one of the leaders in business and in terms of the army or whatever the field is in sport is that sense of optimism, that sense of belief, that conviction and that optimism. And you get that and you want that inspiring your colleagues as well. So another question related to that is how can you handle conflict in a way that maintains and builds your very supportive culture?
I think the way that you handle conflict in an organization is hear people out and really try to empathize with their perspective. But at the end of the day, you have to make decisions in the best interest of your business. And so if you notice that someone is constantly having conflict with others, then you realize that the problem is probably them. And you need to really try to coach them around it or decide if you're going to cut bait. I do believe that you should give people at least 6 months to prove themselves, to prove out. I remember the worst employee I ever had. For the first 2 months this woman worked for me, I wanted to fire her every day. I did, because she just made a mistake every day and she made me crazy. And let me tell you something, 3 years later when she left me, I cried when she left because it took 6 months for her to really, really get it. But she became an invaluable employee who decided to leave to go back to graduate school to get her PhD. But I think you have to give people 6 months, and you also have to learn your own style, because you might be the problem why you're having problems with employees, right? It might be how you communicate, what your expectations are, how you give feedback. If every time somebody talks to you, their feedback is negative, that's not going to work. You have to realize that your leadership skills have everything to do with how well your business is going to do. So you have to grow yourself to grow your business. And you need to make sure that you're investing in your own leadership. I know for my business, if every year for the first 10 years in business, I took some executive education course. I went to Leadership Inc. I did the Urban Leadership Institute. I went to Harvard, to Dartmouth, and to the University of Virginia and took executive education courses to become a better manager and a better business owner. And you need to look and see if those are some of the things you need to do to invest in yourself and your own leadership skills so that you can lead your team. People do what they see you do. So your leadership is extremely important to the success of your business.
Yeah, and Melinda, as you build the culture, you're building mythology, you're building folklore. So get the guys to write it down. And when the guys you hire say, this is the sort of company we are, things like we never let a customer down. Just expose your beliefs and your passion. And when you get conflict, actually conflict can be pretty healthy. It's never going to be personal. So separate in your mind the individual and always be compassionate and supportive of the individual, but deal with the issue head on. Never let the issue fester. Never duck the issue, just deal with it head on because it's getting in the way of the business. So we've got a great question now, and keep your questions coming on #SageAdvice on Twitter. With time is money in mind, how can you encourage working mums in the business such as flexi time, job sharing? What could we do to be really great startup entrepreneurs to really give working moms a great opportunity?
Well, I love this topic because I am a single working mom, so I can speak exactly to this. I think you really have to be flexible. You have to give people assignments and projects and let them work where they can. It doesn't necessarily mean they have to come in the office every day. If they get their work done, you don't care. If they've got to be there to meet the bus or be this PTA event at the school, let them do it. You want people to have healthy relationships with their families and with their children. And these people will work harder for you because you're more flexible with them. So definitely flex hours, let people work from their own devices, give people, the technology that they can use from their phones, from their home, so that they can have great home offices. This is the kind of stuff that people love and that people need. And I don't care where you work from, as long as you get your work done. I don't even care if you make a mistake, as long as it's not the same mistake. So that's how I feel and how I work with the people that work for me. And it's been working for me pretty well.
That's great. We still got more time. So if you want any more questions, #Sage Advice. Good question. Back to your original opening answer, actually, Linda. How do you take control back from your to-do list so that it's a tool for growth, not just kind of telling you what you have to do?
Well, again, I believe in this top 5 system. I work on 5 priorities a day, and I try to get them done before 11 a.m. If you are that specific about your task list and you work on it the day before, I believe in a clean desk before you leave the office. The only thing left on my desk is my list of my top 5 for the next day. If you are that draconian about your time and you focus and you don't let people distract you, and I mean, for me, I won't even schedule meetings with people before 11 a.m. That's how serious I am about my top 5. I don't do conference calls. I don't do anything with anyone before 11 a.m. And 2 days a week, I schedule 10 to 11 to go work out. I schedule time for myself in that top 5 too. I am the machine. I am the brand. So I focus on me too in my top 5. So, my top 5 on Tuesdays and Thursdays says, Melinda, go work out with trainer 10 to 11, right? So I think that it's very important that you focus on your top 5, and then anything else you get done is gravy, but you have to be specific. This never ending to-do list, working all day and all night. A cluttered mind cannot focus. So you want to make sure that you're getting proper rest, that you're focusing on your top task. And guess what? A good idea is still a good idea 3 weeks from now. And the other thing that I do is related to time is I never spend my time doing $20 an hour work. Never. I do not believe in it. So there's all kinds of things that I hire people to do because my time is billable at what, Stephen? What is my time billable at? $5,000 an hour. Let's just use that as an example. So why in the world would I spend it doing $20 an hour work? Never. So you need to make sure that you have the appropriate help around you, that you're leveraging virtual assistants. And then if you're the CEO, maybe you need a personal assistant so that you can manage your household and your business, because we know that these things intertwine for most small business owners.
Hey, that's a great question. I've got to tell you about obviously things like Sage One as well, because you can run your business from the palm of your hand and get your life back in terms of all that admin, invoicing customers, collecting the cash. You can watch the cash come in through your iPhone or your Samsung. Melinda, answer your question.
I love that, Stephen, because my favorite sound is the sound of money coming in the door. So if you tell me that I can use the Sage One accounting software through my phone and I can see the money coming in, I want more information about that, Stephen.
I love it. We're ringing that bell when that money comes in. And Melinda, there's no price on your time. That's how good it is. I love it. I absolutely love it. Got another great question. A couple of more questions to come in. What's the best piece of business advice you received when you were growing up in your business career, Melinda?
The best piece of business advice I ever received was always know your next hire. Nobody's ever going to love your business as much as you, and people leave. And the average small business employee stays with you 3 years if you're lucky. So you don't want to get caught looking right when you should have been looking left. You want to make sure that you always have a bench, if you will, of people that you would hire, or maybe you just go ahead and hire somebody even before you have an exact role for them. If they're awesome, don't let good people get away from you, because there is a war for top talent out here.
That's great. And I've been asked for the same question. My best piece of advice I was given was just never, ever let a customer down. Knock the ball out of the park for a customer. And, when I see entrepreneurs who have customer relationships where genuinely the customer's a raving fan for their product or their service or their company, these guys, especially in the world of social media, these guys are the volunteer army for your business. They're out there saying how great you are. And back to Melinda's original point, one bad experience with a customer, they tell 10 people. So one great experience on social media, they can tell hundreds of people. And, the amplification of just loving customers and doing the right thing and having that integrity, if you do that throughout your business career, you'd never go wrong. And that was a golden piece of advice given to me back in my 20s, which seems like a lifetime ago. So we gotta, I think probably our final question now, Melinda, which is a real shame. We could go on for hours. And what's the best way to encourage feedback from your team?
I think to make it so that it's safe to give feedback. What you don't want to do is have what I call these death march meetings where you get your whole team in a room and you say, well, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Start with yourself. And make yourself accountable to your team too. Talk about what you're doing. And then if something didn't go right, always ask, is there something more I could have done to support you? Did I contribute to this ball being dropped? If you always start with that question, you will always make it safe for your team to give you feedback. And that is invaluable, because honest feedback is a gift, frankly.
That's great. Actually, the other thing, I was given some advice, Melinda, in terms of a great way to show leadership, show a bit of vulnerability. Say, actually, I kind of didn't do well in that meeting, or I didn't do great in that presentation, or actually, I'm sorry, I'm just not feeling good that day. I just didn't perform to the best of my ability. I let you guys down as a team. And I think the other thing, actually, we do more and more, Melinda, this is quite useful, because with these things, you want them to scale, and you want a culture where you're always giving honest feedback. Just to come up with, what worked well, what didn't work, what did we learn, what do we do better next time? Just ask those open questions. They're non-threatening, because the next question is, sometimes people shy away from critical feedback because they fear the consequences. Any guidance for that? Make this our last question, Melinda, the bullet answer.
The bullet answer. I'm not 100% sure I understand the question, so give it to me one more.
So, obviously, I guess with feedback, people think that could be taken as criticism, and they shy away and get very defensive. So how do you take that front on?
Well, I think it's exactly what you just said. I think you've got to show vulnerability. If you feel like you know all the answers, you probably shouldn't be in business, because, again, it's not about goals, it's about growth. And if you're not growing, if you're not learning something new, then your business is in trouble. So I think as long as you come at your employees humbly and say, look, I need your help to solve this problem. Can you help me understand what just happened here? How did this, did I contribute to you not being able to deliver? Or what happened? Is there something going on with you that doesn't have anything to do with work? Are you okay? I think if you start there, I think that, hopefully, even if it's a tough conversation, it can still be a good one and a constructive one.
I love that, Melinda. If you're not growing, you're not learning, your business is not thriving. That's so true. Now, we're going to have to wrap up in a couple of minutes, but we've got a lot of questions. We'll answer those, and we'll probably ask Melinda to write a blog, and she'll publish that. And then also, I remind you, on the other Sage Advice sessions we had during the week, Brendan Flattery, Maria Gomez, around how to create a routine that works for you as an entrepreneur, back on Tuesday. Santiago and Frederic, how to give away control and effective delegation. And then Ivan and Arthur yesterday, just looking down, really about how do you efficiently make the change but be always on? How do you do that as you're scaling up your business? So some great topics. I'd really love you to go to those, whether they're on Blab or they're out there on social media, worth looking at. And I just want to wrap up by saying thank you for joining us today. Most of all, thank you, Melinda Emerson, for joining us. Go and get on that hashtag 12 days of giveaway. And really great to have you here, Melinda. Thanks for your questions. And join us again, hashtag Sage Advice. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, and happy Small Business Saturday.
Go. Happy Small Business Saturday. Love it. Thank you.